I know I'm super late to the party since pretty much every other Heroscape YouTuber has already reviewed these sets, but I finally got my hands on the Heroscape Wave 3 terrain expansions, and that will be the Swamps of Valhalla on the left there and the Snowfields of Valhalla on the right. These retail for $60 each, and as it says on the box, they have over 120 hexes of terrain in each of them. So the main reason I'm interested in these is to take a look at the new 24 hexes, since obviously I've been super vocal about the issues that Renegade's been experiencing since having to recreate the 24 hexes from scratch. They've had some, in my opinion, some pretty bad fitment issues, and so that's something I've been very eager to take a look at here and wanted to give my opinion on. So let's go ahead and open these up. We're going to start with the Swamps of Valhalla, and I'll do a comparison obviously with the first and second molds of the 24 hexes just so we can see what's changed through these. And as always, I'll be talking about value for money, whether you should be spending $60 for this, overall quality, and other such things. So let's start with the Swamps. As I said, it looks like these just have a sticker on the side here. So sticker seal, again, some of the earlier terrain sets and master set were all shrink wrapped, just like the promos. It looks like they've stopped that completely, which again is fine with me. It saves some plastic. Here is the top layer of the box. We've got these two jungle plants, and this is actually my first look at the new molds for the jungle plants. I did order the jungle terrain, the Grove at Lars Edge jungle terrain again. Previously, I had returned mine, as I mentioned, I think in my first video, because they had the issue with fitment on the bottom here. So that's another example of Renegade taking feedback and actually changing their product. That one's a little bit more understandable to me that they acted quickly on that, because that's a very clear like defect. That's not that's a little more urgent in my opinion, as far as the pieces not sitting flush with the terrain that they were designed for. So it's great to see that it looks like they actually did correct that here. So I don't have any of the original jungle trees to compare to, since I already shaved down my battle box trees, and then I shipped back for refund the original Grove trees that I got. Like I said, I ordered new Grove trees because I like the look of them, and since they actually took the effort to correct them, I do want to support them when I can. So that's great to see. And I also love the color on these. It's cool that they gave us some different colors, because, you know, if you've already bought the battle box and the Grove set, you'll have a ton of these. So it's cool to have a different color to kind of make the battlefields pop. Here we have the 7 hexes. You get 5 of them there. We've got 2 1 hexes, 2 2 hexes. Lighting's a little dark. Let me adjust that. There we go. So we've actually got Swamp 3 hex water, which is entirely new, and that's cool to see. These do look very interesting. I mean, these look pretty much identical to the original Swamp water tiles. Even the Swamp tiles themselves, I mean, they're doing a great job at color matching these and matching the production quality, so that's great to see. We've also got our 3 hexes. And then we've got a bunch of water tiles. I can't count these right now, although I'm sure it says in the little pamphlet how many there are. So we'll take a look at that. Alright, so that's our first layer of terrain. Good bit of stuff. I mean, like I said, this comes with a lot of terrain. We remove our plastic divider. We've got a little sheet here. Little rules booklet or something. Yeah, swamp water rules, swamp grass, rules to master game. I'm not really too concerned. This is good to see, though. They have the underbrush piece rules in here, because that was not the case for the battle box, which is so weird. Weird that they missed that, but cool. And then it looks like our last piece here is the 24 hexes. So that is the entirety of our terrain. So here's the full set of terrain. This is what you get for $60. Not bad. I mean, obviously I would like it to come with more. You do get a lot of swamp water tiles, which is very similar to Swarm of the Morrow. You also get very similar quantities to all these tiles as Swarm of the Morrow. So you've got 2 of these, 2 of these, 2 of these, and 2 of these, which is the same as Swarm of the Morrow. You've got 5 of these. Now, Swarm of the Morrow had 10, which it definitely relied, later master sets past Rise of the Valkyrie relied on 7 hexes more than it did 24 hexes, probably just for production costs. So I do wish we had either more of these or more of some of the smaller ones. it's not as big of a deal in my opinion to not have as many small ones for swamp terrain, because swamp terrain just functions as normal ground. For something like the lava sets or snow sets where the intention is to slow down movement or change gameplay in like a precarious way, you don't want giant swaths of lava field like this or like this. You'll want the smaller pieces like these three. So that's why a lot of people are complaining about the distribution of pieces. And for the swamp set, it's totally fine. This one is like about what I would expect. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the 24 hexes here, since that's the reason I got these. So first we'll take a look at the bottom, see if there's anything obviously different, and right off the bat, these look pretty identical to the second revision here. So this is the Lands of Valhalla. This is the second mold, and you can tell because it's got that little dot there like the original 24 hexes did. So these look pretty much the same. And then the first mold, which came from like the Battle Box and Age of Annihilation, has this little belly button mark right there. So I don't know that there's like a giveaway for the second and third mold differences. They seem pretty much identical from the underside. So let's test the fitment on these. So we'll do these two together, just like this. This is the... Wow. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I mean, that is a million times better. You can even see, if I'm tapping on the edges here, you don't have that insane rattling that we were seeing on earlier printings. Even the first and second both had that issue, because this is actually sitting flat. And it goes together easily. Look at that, it comes apart perfectly. So I can definitely say, and let me put these back together and look at the other underside, since we want to, you know, check for any stress marks. Let's take a close look here. Now the gap is still not as neat as original Heroscape, which is disappointing, but it doesn't really matter. Like, if I'm being honest, it doesn't really matter. That's more of like a neatness issue. You do see, like, right here, it looks like those are a little tight, but since we're not seeing it repeated inconsistently, and where it's, like, stressing on a bunch of points, like, it's literally just that one piece there, that's not an issue at all, in my opinion. That doesn't seem to be any sort of significant stressor on these. So, I would definitely say that this third printing is fixed. Like, there's nothing, anything beyond this point would be aesthetic. Like, I think the edges here, if it'll focus on that, should be more in line with the original tiles like that, where you've got that nice texturing and the steps carved into it. But again, that's aesthetic. That's not functional. So these feel great. So just test the other sides here. Definitely, I would say this is at the point where I would have no problem recommending this terrain to replace your original terrain. I think the only complaint I could have here is that there's not, like, I think that they should have done a minimum of 4 line of sight blockers, because 2 just kind of feels pretty sparse for a terrain set with this much, you know, area that it can cover. But like, that's really all I've got. Like, $60 here feels fair in this market as far as what it would cost to produce something like this. So I don't really have any complaints. 24 hexes, you heard it here last, that they are actually corrected, since, like I said, everybody's already reviewed these. So many people have already asked me about this, and I've been like, I just don't have them in hand, so I can't comment yet. But everything I've heard, and now as I can see, it does appear to be truly corrected. So huge thumbs up, big recommendation for Renegade. That's very encouraging. So we'll move on to the snowfields. I spoke too soon. We forgot to check the fitment on these guys. Beautiful. Beautiful. Look at that. I mean, this just makes me happy. Like, they are continuously listening to feedback. They're improving the product with every release, especially when it's something like designing a whole third mold that's going to cost them a lot of money, take a lot of research and development. I can't imagine that's an easy process going back and forth with the factory to get this corrected. And they're not even, I mean, I don't want to give them any ideas, but they're not raising the prices on this. It's staying the same price that it was always going to be, and they're doing right by their customers. So that's great to see that they are overcoming the growing pains from early releases. All right, snowfields, and the big selling point here is definitely these snow-covered evergreen trees, since we've never had those in Original Scape, as well as the 24 hex snow, since those were also entirely new. We can also see we've got the 3 hex ice piece, which is semi-new. They had these as the base for the glaciers, and so now it's just like a single tile like we've seen for the other types that they've made. I mean, I'm pretty excited. The only downside here that I personally have is that we don't have any of the glaciers yet. Hopefully those come in another set, because glaciers are just really good line of sight blockers. Maybe they'll do like a line of sight blockers only set that can be a little bit cheaper, like a $30 set that's just some big glaciers, more evergreen trees, and that kind of stuff. I think that'd be really good. So let's open this up. The contents of this are going to be the same, just color shifted, and then the only difference here is these trees instead of the jungle bushes. So the trees themselves, well, we'll set all this aside first, so let me just pull it out. Alright, so here's everything. It's kind of hard to show all this in my white studio since it just blends in, but this is what we get. Let's see. For starters, it's just really weird to see a plain white 24 hex. So again, we'll test the fitment on these, just because I'm always curious. Feels just as good as the Swamp 24 hexes, so I am definitely ready to put this complaint to rest. Let's take a look at the ice here. And actually, you know what? I'm going to go get some original snow stuff so we can compare. Alright, here we go. So on the left here we have original Heroscape ice, and on the right we have the Renegade one. The Renegade is not as frosty, but it does still have this like flaky texture inside of the actual hex there. I don't know why I just forgot the word. It's too focused on the pretty ice. So it does look really good. Like, I don't have an issue with them changing that a little bit. This one is like a rougher texture, because I think it's and it doesn't want to focus on these because they're translucent. I think it's like frosted on afterwards, whereas this is like baked into the actual hex, so it's probably included in the plastic mold, or the plastic itself. So it does feel smooth. It looks great. No real complaints there. Let's take a look at a 2 hex. So this one on the right is original. This one on the left is Renegade. And I mean, these are identical. Like, if I mix these together, I don't think I would even be able to tell the difference there. So that's cool. I am curious to see long term whether the Renegade ones will be resistant to yellowing, since I know that the original ones, and this is a bad example, I think at some point they fixed the mixture for the original ones as well, but some of the original snow that I have really yellows bad, and so hopefully the ABS will be less or more resistant to that over a long time. And then lastly here we've got the snow trees. So these are decently weighty. I don't think that they're as heavy as the Road to the Forgotten Forest trees. I think those are like a heavier rubber. These feel, I mean, they feel roughly the same material, but definitely not as heavy. These sit nicely. And again, icely. And again, I do wish that we had 4 of these, just because it feels like 2 isn't really enough to do anything with, and so for a lot of these terrain sets, it feels like you'd want 2 or more of them to actually build a substantial map that uses this terrain. But I think sometimes, for a lot of people especially, you'd want to build a map that has just like a light coating of snow, and you wouldn't want to use like a bunch of 24 hexes and 7 hexes, but you'd still want something like a bunch of snow-capped trees. So to me, it seems weird that we don't have a better way to get a bunch of these trees just because they're really nice aesthetically. And again, my hope is that they'll release just a line of sight blocker set that's glaciers and snow-capped trees and like the lava crags that we're getting later this year. So that's my hope. But this is what you get in this set. And it does have the rule sheet with all the rules for snow and ice, and you can choose between the two, whichever you prefer. So that's cool that they're making sure to include that. So that's all I've got. Thank you guys for watching.